What up, guys? It's your boy APT Songs here, back again, this time doing a live for you guys. Today is the monumental day, so I figured it'd be good to come in here and talk to you guys about the verdict in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. We'll go over that briefly, but what I really want to talk about is how the media is trying to spin this, and I want to really touch on why it is that survivors of, spousal harm have actually supported Johnny Depp. And there was an article that Bazaar wrote up where you can definitely tell based on how the article is written that it's in favor of Amber Heard being believed. And I really want to talk about what is said in the article, what they got wrong, and the real reason why people are coming out in support of Johnny in spite of what Amber Heard's claims were, okay? But basically, Johnny Depp brought about a defamation suit against Amber Heard because she wrote this article back in 2018 that hinted at her being an abuse victim and it possibly being Johnny. She didn't mention his name in the article, but the time frame that she was talking about when the abuse would have allegedly happened in the article was around the time that Johnny Depp and her were still married. And so as a result of that article, Johnny Depp started losing roles. People didn't want to work with him anymore. I know he definitely lost out on his role in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which cost him a lot of money. And he's basically just had his name dragged through the mud these last few years. And so there was a trial that happened in the UK courts where he brought up a suit against a UK paper that had written about him being an abuser, and he lost that trial. But there's a plethora of reasons why he lost that, a good portion which had to do with the fact that there was evidence they wanted put into the case, and there were claims that Amber was making that Johnny's side wanted investigated that they weren't willing to investigate because at the time they were going on the stance to basically believe all women, and if she tells us a thing, it must be true, therefore forget Johnny's claim and he's guilty. So he brought it to court in my home state of Virginia, by the way, is where they had the trial in Fairfax. I know very much where that is. And so they went through a month-long trial where Johnny got to say his piece and Amber got to get up on the stand and say her piece, and the lawyers went back and forth. And today the verdict was announced, and come to find out, the jury was in favor of Johnny Depp, and they believe that the things that Amber Heard said in her article resulted in defamation of character, and that a lot of it was, and that most of it and all of it was false. And so they awarded him $10 million in punitive damages and $5 million in another type of damage that, because of Virginia state laws, got taken down to like $350,000 or whatever. So basically, $10 million and $350 million is what she had to pay. And so on her side, she had put forth a counterclaim that basically was countering his thing. And aside from like winning $2 million, because I guess one of his attorneys said that her alleging that she got abused didn't happen, but the accusation actually did happen. Not that he did the thing, but that her making an accusation of it actually happened. And therefore, she was to be awarded $2 million. But she got everything else that they came forward and basically said that everything she's told us and everything she presented was false and inaccurate. So that means that there's a net worth that he's owed from her of $8.3 something million or whatever. Point is, Johnny won his case. And hopefully this means his good name has been restored. And I'm very happy because in watching the trial and seeing Amber get up on the stand and say the things that she said and try to defend herself, and then having Johnny's lawyers bring out all this evidence that indicated that she was lying and that she wasn't being truthful and that the things she was bringing forth and talking about didn't actually happen, that was a joy to watch. And I say it because there's been this narrative ever since the Also Me movement came about, where women have said this thing that anytime a woman brings forth a claim, we should be believing all women. And I've always thought that was a huge crock. I don't believe that's a thing. I believe in investigate all women's claims, just like I believe in anybody who brings forth a claim. Like, let's investigate that claim before we just outright say the person that told us his claim is telling the truth. Because here's the thing. I know there's a slant of, women are to believed all the time. And, women wouldn't lie against the guy with such heinous accusations. And, she said these things that are so, that indicate that he did such harm that nobody would in their right mind would make that up and waste somebody's time and try to hurt them unless they actually did the thing. And people forget how humans work. because humans are ultimately out for themselves. They're out for their own, gains and intentions. They want money. They can be vengeful. In this case, if let's say Johnny was the one that put forth the divorce, she could have been one that was like, well, I want to get him back for trying to leave me. So I'm going to put forth these things to indicate that he did this thing and whatnot. And all of us are not, because like I said, the jury, I'm at home watching this thinking, this is all blatant lies. I hope the jury can see this. And the jury clearly was like, yeah, she's lying. She's a bad actress. And there's a plethora of reasons as to why, which we'll get into. But in doing research for this little video that I'm making, I came across this article written by Bazaar Magazine, which really pissed me off. So I'm going to show it to you guys. So the article I did was called, "Why Are So Many Survivors Supporting Johnny Depp?" And I thought the answer was obvious, but I'll get into what their article said. So we have this article and it said, women who have survived harmful assault have been, I got to watch the words I say on YouTube because I don't want to get demonetized in case this channel ever gets monetized, have been talking about their experiences to defend Johnny in his defamation case against Amber. Why? So let's go a little bit. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'll get into the bits and parts that they talk about as to why it is that people that have gone through a similar situation that Amber claims she went through would somehow support Johnny. So this is their rationale behind that. All right. So we go down here and it says, why is this happening? As much as her critics might want us to believe that she lost survivor support because she is a liar or a bad victim, it's actually pretty common for women to doubt other women, even if they too have experienced violence. It's crucial to remember that survivors are not a monolith. Perpetrators do not select victims based on their political beliefs, yada, yada, yada. One of the reasons violence is such a powerful tool in maintaining the patriarchy, which I hate that word, but anyway, is that it reinforces traditional gender norms. So what they're trying to say here is that basically violence is a way to make sure that the patriarchy stays in place, that way men are always in charge, and it can also basically make women, put them in their place to where they understand that, they're lesser than men. But that's not what happened here, because what happened here was you had a situation based on evidence that indicated that she was actually very violent to him. I mean, they had a whole day in court where they showed the finger that got cut off because she threw a bottle at him and it cut his finger off. Okay. If that's not woman violence towards men, I don't know what that is. So in that instance, is this her way of trying to take back the patriarchy by harming him, by cutting off his finger? Like, how does this balance itself? It doesn't. So what they're saying in this article is emphatically false. Continuing, she says, in my own work, I've interviewed a lot of conservative survivors. They are quick to insist I should believe them, but not other victims, especially if those victims fail to meet white feminine ideals like chastity or subservience to men's authority. But again, this wasn't that case, because he wasn't trying to make her do anything that she didn't want to do. She was being violent to him. There were times that he would try to actually walk away from these various arguments they were having, and she would follow him and berate him and talk down to him. So again, how is this a thing where, if this is the case where he's trying to make her subservient to him? It is not. Once a conservative participant in my research emailed me a Jordan Peterson video and urged me to join in his argument that most survivors were promiscuous women who regretted participating in hookup culture. To her, the injustice of her assault wasn't a loss of bodily autonomy, but rather that a woman like her, a white conservative who had followed the rules, was the one violated. Except this isn't the case where that happened. This is the case where Amber lied about it and then tried to get away with it. But this isn't a case where Johnny was saying, because she's being promiscuous, I try to do this thing to her or whatever, because he wasn't doing those things to her, but she was putting forth the argument that it possibly happened. But all the evidence, again, that she tried to dole out was able to be refuted in court. Anyway, so we'll scroll down a bit. See, survivors have these ideologies often validated by men's rights activists, and we can go on a whole rant all day about men's rights activists, yada, yada, yada. They use sexist women to legitimize. So basically, they're saying in this paragraph that they find women that can back up the claims that they have that women harm them too, and then use that as a means to say, and see, that's why women getting harmed doesn't actually happen. But again, that's not really what we're talking about in this case. So scroll down a bit more, because they talk a lot about perpetrators and why tactics perpetrators use to perpetrate are varied and often reflect the privileges they and the victims hold. Victims react differently. So basically, they're trying to make the argument that because Amber is on the stand, but she's not being a perfect victim or delivering her testimony in a way that is as perfect as we think a victim should be, that her claim should not be believed. And we'll get into that in a minute with my rebuttal to this whole thing. Even when survivors see elements of their own story in a survivor's narrative, they may still attempt to distance themselves by looking for tiny differences in how they navigated violence. And to do so, they rely on something scholars call the just world hypothesis. The just world hypothesis is the belief that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people, or that the world is fundamentally just. And strangely, people are most likely to invoke the just world hypothesis when the reality before them is unfair. It's a way of denying the inequalities in our society, especially when they make us feel threatened. In harm trials where the woman got hurt in a way physically that she didn't ask for, women jurors invoke the just world hypothesis because they are overwhelmed by the ubiquity and unpredictability of that kind of violence. It is terrifying to emphasize the survivor with the survivor because it requires women to confront the possibility that they could be the next victim. Instead, women look for reasons to believe they are different from a survivor as a way to calm their fears and convince themselves that they are safe as long as they make better choices. So basically, they're saying in these trials where women have physical harm brought upon them by another man, or another woman these days or whatever, that the jurors are going to be like, well, she must have done something to deserve that because why else would that thing have happened? Therefore, she still is basically asking for it. Okay. So anyway, you can read this article for yourself. It's harpersbazaar.com. Just type in Amber Heard's name, whatever. This last paragraph, it says, for all these reasons, it isn't surprising that so many survivors are taking Johnny Depp's side. It is completely consistent with the scientific literature on how some women navigate a patriarchal society in which violence against women is common. But that doesn't make it any less painful for other survivors whose experiences are mocked and scrutinized in the process. So on that end, I agree. I think that, women have a hard row. And I think for a lot of years, when women have brought forth claims of things that actually happened to them, it gets ignored. And that's a really sucky position to be in. But that said, people like Amber Heard come out of the woodwork and don't make it easier for actual victims. And so here's the difference. Okay. Here's the difference between Amber Heard and victims that actually went through stuff. Okay. Is that in this trial, yes, she was a bad liar, but plenty of bad liars get away with crimes. Look at the old OJ case, right? But the thing is this, it was her job within this claim to bring forth proof that the article that she wrote was actually truthful and that the claims that she made in it were things that actually happened to her. And almost every single time that she did that, Johnny's lawyers were able to refute that, not only just by making assumptions and assuming she was lying, but bringing in other experts that were able to show that the evidence she had was repurposed or was made up or was fajangled in some way. There are claims that she made that Johnny did things to other people that when those people were brought in, those people said, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, no, the way that she said that didn't happen. He's actually a nice guy. Oh, no, the thing that he pushed me down these stairs, actually, no, I fell down the stairs and he actually carried me and took care of me. The evidence that she had with the pictures that she had. Oh, these pictures of my bruises. And then you have an expert come in and say, well, I'm actually a forensic picture expert who I didn't know there was even such a thing as an expert in somebody that looks at JPEG pictures and can analyze based on the data within the pictures, whether or not a picture was an authentic picture or one that had been altered. And the guy came in and said, yeah, so I can't determine where these pictures came from because they've definitely been altered. So it's not that Amber needed to be the perfect victim. She just needed to be a victim that had proof that when she brought it in, couldn't be refuted. There were, claims of, like she said, I was never a violent person towards him. But then there's audio where she says, oh, I didn't punch you. I hit you. Get over yourself, basically. So you don't need to be a perfect victim. And, she probably has a feel that everybody was biased towards going into this, but these claims came against him 4 years ago. And he lost out on roles because people in Hollywood believed Amber Heard. He lost the Britain trial because they didn't want to hear all the evidence because Amber just started talking and they believed Amber Heard. So there were already people on her side, and she going into this trial probably had more people than not that were going to believe her unless Johnny just happened to come up with a good reason or a good way to prove that he didn't do all the things that she was saying he did. And that's what he did. All he had to do was come to trial and say, look, I didn't do these things, and here's my proof. And my lawyers are going to bring forth people that'll testify that I didn't do these things. And we have forensic evidence. We have all these other things and picture angle researchers and claims, all these things that are going to show you guys at the end of this that this is proof that I didn't do this stuff. And he was able to do it. And Amber Heard had lawyers that, unfortunately, she kept throwing them under the bus by saying, oh, well, I gave my team all the evidence, but I guess they didn't get this thing put in that thing because it's her job to bring that to them. But she's trying to say they're not doing their job because they're not showing all the evidence that she has that she's supposed to give them. And so then that makes it sucky for them because the lawyers on her side are thinking we have all the stuff to prove this case. But then Johnny's lawyers come out of the woodwork, be able to disprove all this stuff. And they're looking at her like, so you didn't tell us that you altered this picture. You didn't tell us that, you did these things that these other lawyers are able to like do. Man, the day that Amber was like talking about Kate Moss, you could tell her legal team was just like, why would you bring that up? Like, she's not even a part of this case. And now because you brought her up, now Johnny's lawyers are going to try to get her to combat the thing that you said, which is only going to make you look worse. So the only thing and the only reason that survivors of former harm by spouses are supporting Johnny is because all the evidence backs up that Amber Heard was a stone cold freaking liar. And I don't feel sorry for her. I don't think she'll be able to pay the money back. But this is a case where this goes to show again why the whole mantra of believe all women is not a good mantra. Again, investigate all women's claims is a fairer and more believable way of going about dealing with these claims when they come up than just believe all women. Okay. And realistically, I don't think women understand this at times that usually the burden of doubt's already in your favor. Like more often than not, there are more people that are going to be apt to believe a woman that says that she's going through harm by a spouse than if a man's either trying to refute that or if a man's trying to say, no, I'm actually getting abused too. And you can hear in Johnny's testimony, he was like, I was getting abused too. And people are like, darn near not wanting to believe him until all this evidence was able to come forth finally that like, oh, she's hitting him. He's trying to walk away from fights and, she's following after him. She got a restraining order against him and he's trying to like abide by that restraining order, but then she's coming to see him and trying to touch up on him when he's not supposed to be near her. Like none of that stuff is helping Amber's case, So I just wanted to make this little short video about that because I know there's going to be people out there that are going to be saying, how could Johnny win? And why did people, support him more so than Amber? And that's why, because she was a sucky victim that had sucky evidence. And worst of all, she had evidence that indicated that she was actually the one doing all the things to him that she claimed he was doing to her. So I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of the case? I thought it was pretty wild just watching it, but let me know your thoughts about the case, about the outcome of the case, whether you think that she should have been found liable or not. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on all that stuff, guys. All right. That's all I got. I'm APT Songs, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out. Peace.